Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 163 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 163 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so glad that you're here with us this week. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me on this journey. I really couldn't do it without you, and I'm just grateful, so thank you. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want to make sure that I'm really foundational. I know I sound like a broken record, but you guys know it's really important for me that we set the tone for this safe space. And I really feel like this safe space is like a house, so I want to make sure that our foundation is strong. And it's built on two really important things, and that's clarity and love. Clarity, really straightforward. I just want you to understand that I created the Well Done Life because I believe that women are the foundation of society. I think we need places and spaces where we can be our most authentic self. So this is a place where you can laugh, where you can cry, where you can share, where you can grow, where you can learn, because I feel like when we take moments to share our journeys, it's an opportunity for us to heal. It's an opportunity for us to be inspired and to grow. So I hope that when you are listening to these stories, be it from our guest or from me, that you're able to take something in that will help you on your journey, because I believe you're amazing and I know that you're going to do great things and we need you. So I want you to feel inspired and loved. And speaking of love, that actually is the second thing that we build this safe space on. I mean, love is the thing. I'm a sucker for love. I love love. And one of the things that I like to do to make sure that I show you love is to send prayers. It is really important to me because I really believe that there are more than me. There's more than me out here just sending prayers into the world. And I'm a firm believer that when two or more people come together in prayer, it's magnified. So I like to make sure that I send you prayers. And this week, I am sending you prayers of boundaries. That is number one that I want to send you this week. I think boundaries are super important. You know, we are out here all doing all the things. And, you know, we're outside, trying to live our best lives, accomplish our goals. And I want all of those things for you. But with us being back outside and doing all the things, you know, there's a lot of different demands on our time. There's a lot of energy that you come into contact with, a lot of people, a lot of places and spaces. And you have to be, what I'm learning, very firm in your boundaries. And I know we talk a lot about boundaries, and I think obviously, you know, we're all kind of trying to figure out what our boundaries are or standing super firm in them if you've already kind of mastered them. But I just wanted to make sure that I send this reminder out to everyone about the importance of making sure that, you know, you establish your boundaries and you feel good about them. Don't ever let anyone or anything make you feel like having a limit is a problem. It shouldn't be, because you're not limitless. I mean, you are limitless in your potential and in the things that you can do, but you're not limitless in energy. We all have only so much energy to give. And so sometimes you have to be able to put boundaries up so that you can protect that energy. You have to be able to put boundaries up so you can make space to, you know, recharge your energy and really set yourself up for success. So I want to make sure that you understand that it is super important to value the boundaries that you set. And there is nothing wrong with having them, and you should have them because they're going to help you live your best life. I mean, we are in a season of tenderness. We're in a season of growth and doing, like I said, everything. So we have to protect us. That's what your boundaries are for. So make sure that you are creating space for that. And then along with having, you know, obviously boundaries, because that's super important, I just want to make sure that you are also being very empathetic to yourself, that you are being nurturing to you. You know, we are very understanding sometimes to other people, but we are really hard on ourselves. And so make sure as you're analyzing things and thinking about maybe how some things didn't work out or, you know, disappointments, that you're not beating yourself up, that you're not speaking negatively about yourself. Give yourself the same grace and empathy that you give other people, because you're doing your best. And y'all know I can always find a way to loop in one of my favorite authors, Don Miguel Ruiz, in regards to the Four Agreements. I mean, like literally, I can always find an opportunity for it. And so one of those things in regards to the Four Agreements is, speaking, being impeccable with our words, speaking life to other people and also to ourselves is so important, because as you're setting boundaries, if you're not empathetic to who you are, to the energy that you bring and how you deserve to be protected, you don't allow your boundaries to be firm because you don't believe that you should have boundaries, because you don't know how amazing you are. So I'm here to remind you, I'm here to tell you, you're amazing. And with that, you need to make sure that you protect all the amazingness inside of you, all the energy inside of you. So you need to have boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with that. And when you make a misstep, just say you made a misstep, but don't beat yourself up about it. Give yourself grace and empathy so that you can keep going, because we need you. And simply put, we need you. And so I want to make sure that I enforce that with being boundaries. So I want you to have boundaries, but I also want you to be empathetic to yourself, And also along that line, I say this a lot, but I cannot stress enough the power of rest. I mean, being able to just sit still sometimes is such a beautiful feeling, and we are not doing enough of that. Give yourself time to sit in stillness. Give yourself time to go to sleep, get your routine together and commit to that time, because that's your time to recharge. That's your time to reset yourself. And if it's not even an issue with you going to sleep, are you giving yourselves moments of reset, moments of rest during the day? Are you just going hard? I mean, a lot of us are working from home or working a hybrid schedule or still in the office. And are we finding time to pull ourselves away from the demands of the day so that we can rest? You are, like I said, you're not limitless in regards to your energy, and you need to make sure that you recharge. So rest goes along with that well. Don't be afraid sometimes to sit things out for a moment, to give yourself a time to process, a time to connect with you, because in that moment of rest, that's where you tap in to the fullness of who you are. You can find peace. You can regulate your system in your mind and your thoughts. And then, I'll be honest, it's probably a lot easier for you to keep going. So make sure you prioritize rest along with that as well. And then my final prayer, it always is the same, I guess, is abundance. And I want you to have, obviously, abundance financially. I'm wishing you have all the things, because when you're financially abundant, you will be a blessing to yourself and to other people. But I'm also asking that you try to find opportunities to be abundant in your spirit. This is a very busy time, and there's so many demands, so many things to do, so many places we could go. I'm loving it for all of us, but make sure we're creating moments that are not necessarily dictated by financial gain, that they're not always about getting the bag, that it's moments where you are able to connect with the people that you love. And even if it's just to share a small laugh or a cup of coffee or tea or just a momentary text or something, pour into those people, because they will pour back into you. Those are moments, those small things add up into really big things. And that creates a cycle of abundance in your spirit that will last longer than anything you can ever purchase. So those are my prayers for you this week. And like I said, I want you to feel loved and valued, because, again, you're amazing. And yes, I'm going to keep saying that until I get tired. But essentially, though, we're here, and I am recording this on Wednesday, August the 23rd at 9:15 p.m. I had to actually look and see what day it was, because it's just been a week. It hasn't been a bad week, but it's just been a busy week, and I'm very grateful, and I hope that you are having an amazing week and weekend as well. And so I'm just really excited to be here again. I want to thank everybody before we get into this week's guest, because yes, I have another guest for you guys. I want to thank everyone for their support of Walk the Forest with me with Sarah Stanko. It's really cool to see everyone, kind of take an opportunity to learn about Sarah's journey and how she's in Bali and how she bet on herself. Betting on ourselves is, at some point in time, one of the most important things that we could ever do. And it may not necessarily lead us to Bali. Like, I would love for all of us to get to Bali at some point. But there always comes a point in our lives where we have to decide that we need to really fly close to the sun. and take a chance on us and see what we can produce. And I am believing that each of you hopefully was inspired by that episode to see that, maybe there is an opportunity for you to do something that's been in your spirit for a while. Not necessarily, like I say, and throw it and change it all the way like Sarah, but there is an opportunity inside where you need to bet on you, where you need to stand in your power, where you need to recognize your worth and establish your boundaries and go as close to the sun as you can, because you understand that, yeah, you may get burned, but you'll be okay, because you know how to be tender and take care of yourself. So if you have not had an opportunity to check out Walk the Forest with me, I will make sure that it is linked in the show notes so that you can check it out and hopefully be inspired. But this week we are back, like I said, with another guest, and I'm really excited to share this very dynamic lady with you. Her name is Jeryn Elise Turner, and Jeryn is amazing. Like, she's a yogi, she is a corporate maven, and she and I had an amazing conversation about her journey. She's an author. I mean, there's just so many things that Jeryn has decided to do, and she's bet on herself in so many ways. And so I am very excited about sharing our conversation with you. And we talked about a lot. We did. We had a really good conversation. So hopefully you guys are sitting down and resting. And I am willing that you have either a glass of water, a glass of wine, mimosa, because it's Sunday, whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. And if you sit back and relax, Jeryn will be with you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, well done, audience. So glad to have you listening. Hopefully, I give each one of you something that is inspiring, but more importantly, connects with your spirit and your mind. I am Jeryn Elise Turner, a yogi. I've been teaching yoga for almost 10 years, have been practicing for yoga a little bit over that amount of time. I'm an author of 4 books. I specialize in children's books. I think children are just amazing and have this innate ability to be sponges and absorb. And to me, it seems like children get the lesson and apply it a little bit quicker than us adults do. I've also written a mother-daughter book as well. That was my first book. I am a communication strategist for a major financial institution, and I am based here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Awesome. Well, welcome from the ATL to the virtual. So it's really good to have you on, Jeryn, to talk. So just kind of like diving right into it, obviously, as a yogi and an author, there are so many, I'm sure, different points as to where your journey began. I kind of want to figure out, I guess, where did your journey to being a yogi and art author really begin? Like, how did you get started?
Great question. For me, and I think for most, we follow direction really well. I think there is a generic and general blueprint for life, which usually includes college, which always includes getting good grades, which includes having some kind of spiritual and religious foundation, as well as listening to your parents. So I did that and was like a model, I would say, teenager and college student, in my opinion, making all of the right decisions. My journey began after I graduated from college. I went to Spelman College here in Atlanta, Georgia, a wonderful experience where I was surrounded by amazing women. And I felt like I did all the right things, but I didn't feel like my purpose was fulfilled. I felt like there was still joy and happiness that could be attained. I've always been a happy individual. But I think after college, we all pause and say, is this it? Do we just work for corporate America? And is this just what we do? And we retire and have a few years where we vacation and travel. That to me just did not seem like the life I wanted to live. So when you asked about how did I find yoga, yoga really found me. I've always been into fitness, but I was looking for a deeper connection to myself and to my thoughts. I was looking for something that would give me that mindfulness that I needed. Because the one thing I think we all can agree on is working is fulfilling. It helps us to pay the bills. It gives us a sense of purpose. But when it comes from a mindfulness place, for me, work always had me going to various directions, as well as juggling so many things with my family and friends. So I say yoga found me because it was a practice that allowed me to have more balance. And in that journey, I've always been someone who kept a journal. I really thought these were my private thoughts. I wouldn't share them with any other people, but a very good friend of mine encouraged me to share because when I shared my works with her, she looked at things in a different way and almost began her journey of enlightenment and asking herself the right questions. So to summarize that very long-winded response,
okay.
Post-college is when I feel like the light bulb went on. And I started looking for things that fed my soul in a different way.
I love that because typically, like post-college, I went to an HBCU as well. I went to Florida A&M University. And at that point, post-college, you're tired, but you're just like, your parents are like, look, I need you to go out here and get this job, make it happen. You know, they were trying to feed your dream, but they're like, I need you to feed this college bill. Yeah. And so I admire that you were looking for that sense of mindfulness. How did you incorporate that as you, like you said, you have been in corporate America before, you're still in corporate America. It is a struggle, in my opinion, sometimes to find the balance between mindfulness and working in corporate. So how did you do that and decide, okay, I'm going to just become a yogi?
Great question. It comes up a lot because in a true Gemini mind,
that explains it.
I have two different sides of myself. So at work, I tend to be very conservative, very focused. The biggest thing for me is optimizing my time so I can create space to do what I love to do. And there are certain aspects of corporate that I do love. I love being a people manager. I love coaching and helping others. I love practicing and incorporating efficiency in all that I do. So I've created the balance by identifying what makes me the best Jeryn. And what makes me the best Jeryn, who's more balanced, who can take on more, who can think on their toes, who's more efficient, whose results show a significant increase because now I'm a better time manager, is teaching yoga a couple of times a week.
Okay.
Taking time to write and journal and allowing myself to just be a happy person. I think that we all thrive when we're in environments that support us. But I also think in this whole spirit and season of mental health, we're challenging old views and realizing what we thought we had to do was leading to burnout.
Yeah.
And what I have found is, as a successful person in corporate America, it's not always about doing more. It's about identifying the right things to do that lead to the biggest impact and allow everyone to see the results that they need. So it may mean prioritizing things in a different way. And tying it back to yoga, having a more mindfulness approach to life, I see the gems before I just go forward and try to tackle something. I take those pregnant pauses in meetings to understand, to ensure that what I'm hearing is aligned with what everyone is saying. And I take that time to really process. And I think the best gift that yoga has given me is the ability to think clearly, to remove some of that anxiety that sometimes comes with corporate America and feeling like you're in the spotlight and there's all this pressure on you to make these right decisions. So what I have found and what I've demonstrated at two major companies that I've worked for is that they've seen the change and the benefit, and they've wanted me to talk more about the balance and how to achieve balance. The main thing really is, I think the be in balance should be boundaries.
Right.
Because you have to figure out what works for you. Working throughout the day, not taking a lunch, sacrificing walks and things of that nature. I sometimes have to do that in those busy seasons of my life, but there's no way that I can do that and maintain that 12 months out of the year.
Right. Yeah. And that's the hard part, because I was going to say there's this, it's very different as an African-American woman, I'm sure a minority woman, or maybe just a woman in general in corporate America, because you feel that pressure to constantly perform and to take on so much. So it's like being mindful can be tricky because it's like, you know what you should be doing, but you just feel like I've got to do it so that I am performing at this optimal level where I'm able to achieve success. So I admire the fact that you are able to show your corporations like, look, mindfulness pays off in many ways, not obviously just for my health, mental health, but to your bottom line. Because essentially, that's really what you have to prove a lot of times when you're thinking of things within a corporate structure. You have to be able to show how this is going to impact. So it sounds to me like you have been able to incorporate your practice into your business. Is that correct to say?
100%. And I will share a very brief story.
Okay.
Like most, you think corporate is about corporate.
Right.
And sometimes you're afraid of bringing your whole self to work because corporate can be a jealous lover and they want all of your time. They want all of your ideas. Mm-hmm. And with my first book, A Dream Come True, that was published in 2017, my amazing friends from Spelman threw me a surprise book launch.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to me, they had invited people that I worked with. So it was kind of like the cat was out of the bag. What do I do now? You can't hide something that is a surprise, especially when you didn't know it was happening. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, what people told me in corporate America were that they wanted me to be whole and they wanted me to come to work as my whole self because they did not want me to ever have to make a decision of leaving because they thought I could not be that yogi or couldn't be the author. So to your point, I had to create that balance with my love of yoga and being an author, as well as with supporting the business needs. And I think because I'm effective, that's been helpful. And then part of that story is I changed jobs in the pandemic. Right. And the person knew me from my past and former role. Mm-hmm. And he was very active and still continues to be a mentor. And I remember I took a little bit of sabbatical. He sent me a message. Hey, we need to send out a bio. Send me what you have. I said, well, the last bio that I have that's accessible is the bio I did for Camp CEO, which is a program sponsored by the Girl Scouts of America. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program. We can talk about that at a later time.
Okay.
Get back to the story. He was like, send me what you have. I'll doctor it up. I know you from your past job. We'll get something created.
Okay.
So I go in, Pamela, day one, and I'm reading my own bio and surprised at what he decided to pull out. He led with me being an Amazon bestselling author. He led with the yoga.
Right.
And so in my current job, I've never had to hide because it was always part of my profile.
I love that because I do think that there comes a point in your career or in your life where you can't hide anymore. And I don't know if it's because of age or whatever, but you get to a point in your career as you've worked in these seasons where it's like, I can't hide anymore. The code switching, you can code switch slightly, but it's not like a lot. You have to come as your most actualized self. And I love the fact that you have been able to show people that you can be everything that you want. You can have all of these dreams and visions and not have to hide it. That could be actually like the unlock, it sounds like, to your next level in your career. How has that benefited you, like being your most authentic self, coming fully? How has it served you now as you're making your way in this new role?
It's opened many doors, and I think it will continue to open doors. So now that people realize what I do outside of work, and as I mentioned, I'm a communication strategist.
Right.
So words come easy to me. One of my biggest assets as a yoga instructor is theming. So I'm going to give everyone in my class positive affirmations for their life and mantras and mottos. So there is a consistency from work and outside of work. I think it's the power of words and identifying those powers. And I like what you said about unlocking. I think, using that analogy, the doors continue to open where people have asked me to do things at work around yoga. There's been this huge move on the 60-second reset, which if you're not familiar with it, you create images, you summarize them, and throughout the day when you feel stressed or like you're not centered, you pull those images up. Many times those images are your children, family members. It could be a pet. It could be a word. Whatever makes you feel like your best self, you're reconnecting with that. And because mental health has become such a focus, because in the light of the murder of George Floyd, there have been so many D&I works and talks.
Right.
I think that is what has allowed many of us to come in as our authentic self. One of my books is around diversity and inclusion and Black history. I would be remiss not to mention the power of confidence. And to your point, with age comes a level of maturity. And as I'm adulting, I feel like I've earned the right to show up as Jeryn unapologetically.
Yes. And I love that you said that you earned the right and you're just showing up unapologetically as yourself. Because again, I feel like that's one of the hardest things for all of us as we are trying to navigate through things. You're still trying to figure out who you are. And when you find who you are, we're trying to fit ourselves sometimes into so many little boxes to make everybody else feel good, but we just have to be who we are and understand that the right people will love us. It sounds like you've learned a lot in this journey of being a yogi and an author. Outside of what you've already told us in regards to showing up as your most authentic self and, being able to fit your dreams into your day to day, what are some of the other, or what's one of the other greatest things that you have learned in this journey?
Ooh, you put me on the spot with what is the one lesson? Because
Yeah,
there's a lot of lessons.
of course, there always are.
The one that I think encompasses a lot of other lessons is that you must do your own work.
Mhm.
So as people are listening to this and they're looking for that one, amazing, life-changing word, or we go to church and we're like, okay, how can the pastor feed me? What is that sermon? What is that gem?
Yeah.
What's that diamond in the rough? There really is not one thing that you do. There's many things that you have to learn about yourself to figure out how do you apply that lesson and make that lesson applicable in the moment. And there's some universal principles: law of detachment, law of balance, the power of yin and yang, the power of breath in terms of inhaling and exhaling. I leverage those things on a daily basis. But to your point about that one lesson, know thyself is probably the biggest thing that I've had to incorporate, because with all of this information, and you go to yoga and you go and write these books, I myself have to stay centered to say, well, what is it today that Jeryn has to do? How is God using me? And I challenge myself to find those quiet moments to listen and hear before acting. Because I think a lot of us do out of just that hamster mindset. I got to do, I got to do, I got to do. Yes, you have to do, but more importantly, you have to be you. So finding those quiet moments to figure out of all the lessons we've learned, which one is applicable to this situation and to this moment.
Oh, I love that, because I do tend to believe life is very seasonal. And you're right. There's so much information. That's one of the things about like the Well Done Life. I'm one of those believers that there are so many different thought leaders and everything out here and so many different paths that you can take. But ultimately, inside of you is everything that you need to know about yourself and your journey. It's just a matter of the steps that you take so that you can open yourself to the reality of who you are in your journey. So I love what you are saying, because it fits so perfectly into my philosophy and what I believe about all of us. These conversations, none of us are experts in life. None of us. All of us are just trying to make it through and navigate this thing,
Yes.
But we all having these kind of conversations, to me, inspire someone to maybe take a deeper dive within themselves so that they can figure out. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work within yourself as someone who is obviously so mindful and a yogi and obviously still within the corporate structures and doing all the things. What do you do to carve out that time? Because I know your schedule is busy. I know you're booked and busy.
Yes. I make me a priority. So before I give to anyone else, I have quiet time. My morning involves meditation and prayer. I
Mm.
exercise in the morning. I drink hot water with lemon first thing in the morning. I do all of these things to pull me back in that present moment. Someone asked me, well, why hot water? You can't chug hot water.
Nope.
So you're with every sip, you're literally calming down your heart rate.
Mm.
You're breathing deeply. And there's something that you just said that is very applicable to your question. And I say this in my yoga class all the time. When you go within, you never go without.
Oof.
So I have to carve out every moment for me before I can give to others. I totally believe in God being the God of overflow.
Yeah.
And that is how I love others. I can't give you what should have been used for me. So I make sure that my cup overflows. And when I then can interact with other people, I do it in a way where I'm not resentful, in a way where I don't feel drained, and in a way where I don't feel like you're taking something that's sacred, because I have that sacred time with self. So now I'm at a point where I can share.
Yes. And to me, that sounds like a big definition of boundaries. Like your
Yes.
boundaries sound really strong.
Yes. I mean, I'm very close with my sister. I just spent over a week and a half with her and her kids and some of my brother-in-law and family. I say all that to say she's a morning person. So she'll call me first thing in the morning.
Okay.
She likely and usually gets my voicemail because of that in terms of boundaries.
Mhm.
I will take an early morning call for work if it is absolutely necessary. But I realized once you set a precedent, people then interact with you in that way. So if I'm always taking a 7 a.m. call, they're going to be like, oh, put that on Jeryn's calendar. So
Mhm.
yes, the general theme in terms of balance, like I mentioned earlier, are boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries with family, boundaries with friends. But in that same spirit, as I mentioned before, there's no universal rule that will be applicable all the time, except for to be loving and that God is love. I truly believe that. And so that would be the general thing that I constantly apply. But when it comes to boundaries, I can be accessible because I know that boundaries help me to be me. But there's times where I'm going to have to be accessible. There's going to be emergencies. There's going to be other things. But I would say 9 times out of 10, those early morning rituals are what keeps me me. And you have to have a really good reason for why I'm going to break that in order to engage.
I respect that because that is a really hard thing for a lot of us. Again, it's just finding that comfort, I guess, or the confidence to just have limits. How have you ever struggled with that, or has it always been, or have you always felt confident? Like, no, my boundaries are like what this is. This is how it's got to be, and no.
I have struggled. I think the best therapists are those that need therapy.
Yes.
I think the best fitness and yoga instructors are those who have had to struggle with different health issues. And all of those things have been my story.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, have I always been this enlightened individual? No. I believe in trial and error, but I also believe in celebrating every time you try and giving yourself grace and mercy for those times where you have errors or where you think it's failure. What I had to do was to live differently because how I was living was not making me feel healthy. So not to switch gears, but this will give your listeners a perspective on my why. Yeah. My why was I was diagnosed with a rheumatoid issue in my early 20s. My blood work looked like someone who was in their 60s. They did not know why. They're like, well, you're not malnourished, but I was not able to absorb a lot of the food that I was eating. So I was eating, but I wasn't getting those nutrients. That also, when we talked about how did my journey begin, my health journey as well as my enlightened journey go hand in hand, because I felt like I was always on the receiving end of what I should do and never on the ability to create what I wanted to do. And so that is, where I got to the point where I had to do things differently in terms of food, in terms of boundaries, in terms of how I operate at work. Everything is not a 12 alarm fire. And how I'm talking to you, which can, annoy people who are super tense. They're like, why are you sounding like a yogi at work? And I'm like, I'm creating the peace. I cannot have a room full of people who are running around like their hair is on fire. Because if I come and bring that same energy, once again, what is my niche? So, I mean, it all works together in terms of a lot of the questions that you've asked. I think because I know myself and I know what I bring to organizations, I have that confidence where I'm looking around and no one's not presenting as I am presenting, bigger than just how I look with the natural hair and my gender and my race, but it's more of the spirit and what I'm bringing into these environments that are truly looking for a level of healing, even if they don't know that's the reason why I'm there.
I love it. And I'm glad that you're doing better with your health journey. It does seem like a lot of times, I always like to say when we have our biggest moments of reflection and change in our life, it's like God took a moment to sit us down. Like either if we have to, unfortunately, we'll experience in our health or something mentally or something financially, like he knows those areas where maybe I might need to just sit you down so you can focus on it so that you can get it better. So I'm glad that that focus has produced these type of results for you. How are you, or let me say this, what was one of the greatest inspirations that you learned while you were in the midst of your health battle and everything?
The biggest inspiration, and I think everybody has to find this within themselves, is this sense of resilience. We're created to heal. We're created not to fail. There is this human spirit, and I think that's the one thing that connects ourselves with each other. It really is the sense of resilience and the sense of tenacity. So even in those storms, I almost felt like this was short term. This too shall pass. I didn't know how. I didn't even know why this was happening to me. I now feel like it happened to me so I could share and be a testimony and be an example for living differently and living in a more healthy way. But I think to answer your question, it was to teach me my resilience and my ability to dig deeper in those moments that seem to be overwhelming.
Yeah. Like I said, when you're on your face, I've said it before, it's like God shows you how strong you are. Because a lot of times we think we're strong, but we are not half as strong as we are. So I'm very glad that you were able to discover that moment of resiliency. With everything that you are now and everything that you do, how are you currently nourishing yourself?
Still sticking to that morning routine, definitely journaling, creating space to go on health retreats. There is an amazing place. I went to Carefree, Arizona. It's called Savannah.
Okay.
So how I'm nourishing myself is finding and identifying people in my tribe that thinks the way I think, but also can challenge me to push myself a bit further. So that's where I am now, where I know a good amount, but as life is evolving and changing and there's new things that I need to face, I still have to not get so comfortable that I'm like, oh, I got it all figured out. Right. No, I like to switch things up. I like to put myself in the deep end where even though I'm a great swimmer, I'm learning a different swimming stroke or different technique to keep myself afloat while I'm juggling some different things.
Oh, I love that. I was going to say, so if you were to equate where you are in life right now to a swimming style, what would it be?
Backstroke.
All right, now with the backstroke, you're just riding. I love it.
Because I think the other strokes, your head is down. With the backstroke, I'm still looking up to the sky, still remaining inspired, still looking around, but also having the ability to continue to move forward.
Yeah, I like that so much. I'm so glad that you're in your backstroke era. And I hope you stay there for a very long time, my dear.
Thanks.
So I'm telling you. So I know we didn't really kind of touch on it, but you're a children's author. I have so many questions because I'm like, okay, is your next book for adults or like, where are you on that journey? What are you working on?
Yes. Like most authors, we probably have a little bit of ADD. So there's not like one book I work on at a time. When I get to the editing phase, I do focus, but there's a lot of different thoughts that are always going on in my brain. I'm always on Instagram. I'm always on Twitter. I'm always putting things out there, seeing what connects with other people, but also seeing if there's a reoccurring theme that my mind keeps going to. So sometimes that is how I develop the next book. But it's so interesting that you keep coming up with balance and asking those questions. I am working on an adult book that's titled Balance in the Boardroom. And it's meant to marry my love of mindfulness to business and the sense of how do you manage business in an effective way. And to let people know doing and being is not two separate entities. You are you no matter where you go. You are the common denominator. So balance in the boardroom is to teach those effective tools that I've mentioned, but also indicate and show the results that have been achieved. I think to your point, when you think it's just something abstract, it almost is an optional thing to do. Oh, I'll walk when I have the time. Oh, I'll meditate, if I get good sleep. No. In the same way that hygiene is something that we do every day, we need to look at mental health and mindfulness in the same way.
Agreed. And I hate to say it, that when you said it like kind of so simplistic, it's like, that's true. I mean, it really should be a part of our everyday routine. But unfortunately, I think we just are, even though it's being pushed now and you see it more and more, it's still one of those things where it's very personal. It's very hard for people to be open, even though they want to do it. It's just that surrender, that courage. So I love that. And especially being able to apply it in our boardroom setting. I mean, many of us, that's what we're doing. We're working in corporate America and trying to figure out how do we be ourselves and have peace of mind while doing this at the same time. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. Are you writing any more children's books right now? Or do you just feel like this might be the pivot that you need for a little bit?
I will always come back to children's books. I think we all are healing the inner child.
Yes.
And I use children's books to really talk about adult topics. And most of the books that I write, yes, the kids will read them solo, but oftentimes the parent, a guardian, a grandparent is reading the book to the child. And I know that those light bulbs are going off. So I have a general love, and my passion is children's books just because in a very concise way, you can get the message across. One of my favorite movies is The Lion King. And even till this day, I will watch it and say, oh my goodness, how did I miss that when I watched it the last 100 times?
Right.
And so there is this genuine innocence that we all have that we all want to revisit and hold on to. So to answer your question, there will be more children's books. There may be a memoir. I love the balance in the boardroom because it keeps coming up. And I also feel like there's a relationship book that's in there.
Oh, very interesting. Now, okay, we didn't really kind of dive into that, but we can really quick because, hey, I'm always a sucker for love. Are you married or in a relationship or?
I am not married. I am not in a relationship. I definitely date. I think as I'm figuring out myself, I'm attracting people. Going back to your question of the season that I'm in, I'm attracting similar energy. I am falling back in love with life. In the sense that I enjoy, having these amazing conversations. And I know no strangers. So I will literally be in the airport and have one of the best conversations I've had within months. And I'll be like, oh my goodness, I don't really know this person. But in these moments, I am just falling back in love with all good things of life. And one of the biggest laws that I follow is the law of detachment. And I think it allows every moment to be just as magnificent as the next. Where you give that gratitude, knowing that God is opening up doors and opening up your eyes. And I love my family so much. And I think I'm grateful to have them. But I also treat people in a way that they're not earning their respect. I naturally give it. I naturally see the goodness in people. And I think that allows me to date differently how I dated before. I think I just, was jumping to the outcome before I even assess the true opportunity. Like, do you even really deserve to be with me? Like, I come with a whole lot. Do you know what it takes to date me? Can you meet my standards? So in this phase of relationship and dating, I'm enjoying the season, but I'm also giving myself that extra boost of confidence where if it doesn't work and if it's not flowing easily, I'm not going to fight inertia. I'm not going to be so stubborn to say, well, at this point in my life, I need to be married. I need to have 2 kids, and I'm going to force this to happen. No, because when you force things to happen, God listens and you'll get that. But it's not what's going to give you the happiness that you deserve.
Very true, and that's definitely something I'm learning as well. I was gonna say with this season, I feel like I'm kind of in the dating route myself too, and so I feel like I'm in my goddess season right now because I agree when the energy is right, like people, you're like a magnet. And that's a beautiful thing. So you get the attention and all those things. And you have to have the discernment now that goes along with the attention. So you can, because everybody's not for you. If you had a way to equate a word for your dating season, what would you call it?
Now, I'm loving that question. And I'm thinking on my toes. If I had a word for my dating season, I would probably say, and this is popping in my head because I'm a very visual
That's
person.
okay. Say it.
Popcorn, where
Popcorn.
things are just on fire, moving around. It's good energy.
Love
It is lively. It is energetic. I literally feel like it's that popcorn popper where there are so many opportunities. I also think for Black women, we need to feel beautiful and we need to believe in abundance. I think a lot of what we've seen has really been, oh, if you find a nice guy, you should be with him.
Right.
And I have fallen victim to that in my past and dated the nice guy and then realized nice guy and I don't have a lot in common. This is not going to work. Like, and that's why I use the popcorn analogy because I need passion and I need purpose. And I need to feel like the lively energy that I'm giving out is being reciprocated. And I think just based on, the stories that, mom and grandmom and aunties have told us, we've just been sold a bag of goods that did not meet our needs. And now I'm screaming from the mountaintops, please marry for love, but marry for compatibility and compassion and have a general purpose where you look at that individual and you say, you know what, we're aligned in a way that I am not aligned with anyone else. And because of that, I will choose marriage, not choosing a person, but choosing a relationship that allows us both to grow in a deep way.
Ooh, I like that a lot. Definitely, this love thing is different out in these streets, with mental health and everything going on. It's a lot of deep conversations that are being had out here nowadays. So I do like the popcorn analogy because I agree, you do need the passion and the pop. I ultimately believe it's just you have to find someone who's worth all of the craziness that you're going to go through. Like literally, I have a friend who equates it to 3 things. She equates it that either no matter who you love, who you're going to be with, there's going to be either bullshit, women, but bitches, or you could have prison bars if you're not careful. And she was like, you have to decide what level, what you're willing to take and what you're not. Obviously, I'm not really with the bitches or the bars, but the bullshit you kind of do because we all come with something. You know what I mean? Like we all come with our ways. So as a healed, evolved woman such as yourself, such as I'm healing, evolving, we're in our growth journeys. It is different, out in these streets. So I love your energy and your enthusiasm for it because it's rubbing off. It's making me feel like, okay, Pam, you can get through.
100%. I had drinks with someone yesterday.
Oh.
And we were talking about accepting our flaws.
Yes.
And I almost take it to the next level. I'm always creating tag words and phrases. I call it functional vulnerability. Okay. Show me you at your worst, but also show me through your actions that you're functional. You may have a bad day. That does not mean the whole day needs to be bad. Figure out what you need to do. Maybe you get a cup of coffee. Maybe you go for a run. Maybe you pray. Maybe you call a family member. Maybe you get in that mirror and say 5 things about yourself that you're grateful for that make you you. But when I say functional vulnerability, don't let it stop with this low vibration. And choose to not stay there because by you staying there, you've now blocked somebody else's blessing and your own because you're in there having a pity party, finding space and creating time that wasn't even dedicated to that. Like life has already gone on. Sun
Yeah.
is shining. People are calling you to do things. And so I need people who are functionally vulnerable in the sense that they know themselves, but
Yeah.
they also can meet themselves, not waiting for me to make them feel better. How can you heal yourself? How can you motivate yourself?
Right. Because, yeah, healing is independent. I can support you on the journey, but I can't heal you. And it's a conscious choice. So I love that. I definitely want to hear more about it. So I have to admit, I definitely would like a book on relationships. So go ahead and add that to your list of things that you
Yeah.
need to put out. Because it's definitely it's interesting out here, but I love the perspective because I agree, and I love that energy that you're in right now. You should be. So I have some random questions as we start to wrap up. You started to answer some of them as we've gone through. So today, what's one thing that's brought you joy today?
Ooh, this is probably going to seem like a version of your question because I
Okay,
literally just flew home last night. So I'm still
love
riding
it.
on a high from
Okay,
time with my nephews and my niece.
yes.
One thing that is in my head, loud and true, is my 5-year-old nephew, Lucas.
Oh,
He's the baby. And oftentimes, as the baby, you either fall in line or you're the maverick who's just
mm-hmm.
running amok.
Yep.
He's more of the maverick and running amok. What brought me joy is his older siblings had already had a perspective for whatever reason. And he was very direct with his words. And it was about just having a good time and people that I see in Pittsburgh. And he's like, you know what? You guys are just saying a lot, but Jeryn's a smart person. And if Jeryn thinks he's a nice person, he must be a nice person. And at 5, he was strong enough to stand up to both of them.
Wow.
And that has been something that's given me joy to say, okay, do I have that kind of confidence to
Yeah.
go against the masses, to say something that's different? And I think oftentimes we look for validation.
Mm-hmm.
He has value in his words at the age of 5.
I
He's
love it.
very, very self assured. And one could say, maybe he is that way because he's 5 and life has not made him feel self conscious. Whatever it is, I told my sister and my brother in law, we have to figure out how to make sure he stays that way.
Amen.
So I hope I still answered your question because this
You
was
did.
a carryover from yesterday. What brought me joy is to see him being so happy in him,
Yeah.
but also having that reminder that use your words, say
Yeah.
what you feel, be
Yeah.
different, and don't be that person who's just a yes person. But if you think something different, even if you're 5 and everybody else is saying the opposite thing, be true to who you are and speak from your heart. So
I
that
love it.
totally brought me joy.
Oh, that would bring me joy too. And the fact that he stood up for you and your decision to date this dude, like, look, I'm good. See, he knows. Leave me
He
alone.
knows.
He knows.
Exactly.
I know. I love that. And that is so adorable. Okay. Now I my second question is always I ask this question of everyone because I love music. I'm a big like music is the soundtrack of our life. Really. I really do think music is the soundtrack of our lives. So what is a song that really just gets you going and brings you joy? Like if you were trying to put your swagger on, what do you play?
Oh my goodness. I fell in love with this group. It's kind of a folk group, but
Okay.
beautiful chorus.
Okay.
And they have a song with NDRE. I love anything NDRE.
Yeah.
And one of those songs that keep me like on my toes and I'm like, okay, I'm walking with a different level of swag is
Mm-hmm.
I Am Light. It just encompasses everything.
Yeah, that is a beautiful song. I love that one so, so, so much. And then I have 2 more questions. What is one thing that you would want my audience to know about you that you have not already shared today?
Ooh. I think the one thing, which people probably would get this,
Mm-hmm.
but how accessible I am and how honest I am. So
Mm.
I haven't directly said that, but I did say I know no strangers.
Yeah.
I think the other piece is my openness to try different things. So yoga and being an author and doing all these great things have stuck, but there's also things that I've tried that didn't really stick.
Okay.
I've loved to dance And I continue to take dance classes, but I have not told you guys or indicated like, oh, I was just in a dance performance. Now, because my friends and family know me, if I were to tell them that I was in one in a year or so, they'd be like, yeah, that's Jeryn. So I think the one thing I would leave with your audience is with me, you hear me as an author, you hear me as someone in corporate America, you hear me as a yoga instructor. In a year from now, when we talk, there could be 5 other things that I've added to my list.
I love it. You never let the grass grow under your feet. That sounds
Not
like
at all. Not at
love
all.
it. Love it. And so then my final question is, how can we support you? Like, where can we find you? And guys, I'm going to put everything in the show notes, but definitely we want to follow your journey and obviously your books.
Yes. Amazon has all of the books.
Okay, cool.
There's 4 of them: A Dream Come True, A Mother-Daughter Relationship, and A Coming-of-Age Story.
Mm-hmm.
The Biggest Star, a children's book on separation and grief, where I feel like my niche as an author is to find words that describe in a very easy, children-friendly way some tough topics. My last 2 books that were released this year are What Do You See?, a book about diversity and inclusion in Black history. That's the standalone book. Mm-hmm. And then there's a self-esteem journal. So it has mirror exercises. It's showcasing top African-American ballerinas. Everyone knows about Misty Copeland, but there's so many others that we're giving space and spotlight to. So those all are on Amazon. Definitely for the young people in your life, support the books and know that even though that the last 2 books are really around my niece's journey as an aspiring ballerina, mm-hmm. diversity and inclusion is about everyone. Yeah. And everyone can see themselves in these stories and in the words that I use. As you mentioned in the notes, you will indicate how to find me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is Spellman Gemini, SpelmanGemini. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of reels and things that are very inspirational. I use that as a platform for real-time updates. Cool. Jeryn Elise Turner is my handle on Twitter, and Facebook is Jeryn A. Turner. I think the unique thing about having the name Jeryn, Jeryn, is that you're not going to find too many African-American yogis, authors running around with the name Jeryn.
Right.
And I didn't mention this earlier, but I felt like my name was so unique that I felt like if I was going to have the spotlight, let me make the spotlight count.
Oh, honey, I think the spotlight will count with you regardless, honey. I love it.
I love it. So definitely you adding all of that into the notes will be a great source. I also do have a website, and that is my first and last name, JerynTurner.com. Okay. And that is different events and things of that nature. I'm going through a website update now. Okay. But be on the lookout for kind of the new face of all things Jeryn, which encompasses not only what I do as an author, but also is more on the mindfulness coaching area. I've been doing a lot more retreats. I've been partnering with different individuals to kind of continue this theme of you can do life differently. Yes. And you can do life in a way that makes you feel good.
I love it. Well, like I said, I will have all of your information in the show notes. So that way, everybody, don't feel pressed. I got you. We're going to have everything covered. And I want to thank you because this was a really great conversation. And I just feel honored that you would take time out of your schedule to talk with a little on me.
No, I am so grateful for you. In this season, exposure is so key.
Yeah.
And I am still in corporate, so time is limited. So I have to make every hour count. And I swear, if someone's listening and they're like, oh, she should talk on this podcast, she should talk to this person, please send me that information because I can only allow others to be great if they know about me and if they hear from me. So exposure is so key. So I thank you for creating this space for us to have this very informal but formal structured dialogue where people are probably going to be like, well, how long have they known each other?
I know. See, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Good combo. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoy listening. I will have, like I said, all of Jeryn's information in the show notes, my information in the show notes. And I definitely will welcome you back when you have your new books ready to go so we can pick up, because I got to hear how the dating stories go. And I got to definitely balance out my time in corporate America.
100%. And I know your podcast is called Well Done. So,
Yes.
not a pun, but to use those words, well done, Pamela. This just flowed so well. And as I go home and just have a great time reflecting on today, I will definitely feel like I did something and did it in a well done way.
I love that. Yes, that's what it's all about. It's all about living our well done life. So thank you for so much again for your time. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you have an amazing rest of the weekend. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.